All right, everyone. Welcome back to today's episode of Words of the Wise. Today, I have Chief Rehberg from Clive PD. He has 31 years experience in law enforcement, has spent the last 27 years at Clive PD, and was appointed Chief of Police in 2024. Welcome to the show, Chief Rehberg. Thank you so much for being here.
Absolutely. Thanks for inviting me on.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. So one of the things that I noticed in your bio and kind of the conversation we had offline was this emphasis on leadership. And so I want to
Mhm.
start there today. And I'm interested in your opinion on what is the key to effective leadership.
I think the key is keeping everybody involved. I very much want everybody to understand what my why is and the decisions that I make. If they understand that, then we get a lot of buy-in from our staff, and they very much want to continue forward in the missions that we have, whether it's just that day-to-day stuff or something bigger on the horizon. So I think that's important. I also want them to understand that they have a role, a leadership role in everything that we do.
Mm.
So it doesn't matter if they're the newest officer that we've hired or, a field training officer or a first line supervisor. Everybody's got a role to play in that. Everybody has good ideas that they bring to the table. And I think that's how we get better, by me allowing my staff to come up with those ideas, come up with solutions to problems that they see, and taking some ownership for what they do. And I like to call it getting some skin in the game.
Mhm.
I think we've been very successful with that approach, and it has really helped what we do on a day to day basis here.
Yeah, and I wrote that down before you even said it, ownership, because it sounds to
Mhm.
me like you're trying to make sure not only do they feel like they have ownership in the organization, but also they have a voice within the organization. And, we talk a lot about generations and, what people are looking for today versus, maybe how it was, back in the day. And I think when we talk about today, people really do want to feel seen and they want to feel heard and they want to feel valued. So I love that that's
Mhm.
a focus of yours. And then it also sounds to me like having open lines of communication and transparency with the decisions that are being made so that everyone understands the why. And maybe
Right.
it's not, um, you can never make everyone happy with every decision, but I think people can get behind the why or they can have an understanding for why something happened as long as there's that open line of communication.
Absolutely. And I've been doing this long enough. There's 1,000 ways to skin a cat, as the old
Mhm.
saying goes. And I know that the way that I might be doing things or that I see them going might not always be the best route to take. So I'm very open, and I encourage critical thinking among my staff. I encourage them to try to solve problems that they have. They operate with a lot of autonomy. They go out and they're expected to make a difference in the community. And I don't want them to have to be dependent on somebody else always making the decisions for them.
Mhm.
So that's one of the things that we focus on pretty intently around here is making sure that everybody's using those good critical thinking skills and they're actively listening and doing all the things that we need to do to make good decisions. But we understand that just because I might do it a certain way doesn't mean somebody else won't have a different and probably a better way to do it. So we very much encourage that.
Well, it sounds like you're also willing as a leader to listen,
Yes,
which I
we have
think,
to.
yeah, I think that's the other like side of the coin, encouraging people to
Hmm.
speak up, encouraging people to have an opinion, a voice, to have that critical thinking, to come forward with new ideas and different ways of doing things. But on the flip side of that, I think the question within the organization is the command staff willing to listen to those things? Are they open and receptive to those things? Because the quickest way to discourage people from doing those things is for them to come forward and then be shut down, right? So how do
Right.
you have both sides working together as a team?
Yeah, I mean that's another thing that we have, I think, focused on and we've done very well. I think it goes to the culture of our agency that we respect everybody around here. We respect opinions. You can disagree with me. That's not necessarily a bad thing. A lot of times, my guys get me thinking of different approaches to whatever insert problem here is. So
Yeah.
um, it's yeah, you have to have both sides of it. You have to have the communication, but the listening as well is equally important.
I think it's also so fun when someone
Oh
kind
yeah.
of challenges you. I want that. I want to
Mhm.
continue getting better, as a person, both personally and professionally. I want people to challenge me. I want people to show me different ways of thinking. I think that it's so fun. And I think when you can set the ego aside a little bit and understand that, like, yes, at the end of the day, you're the boss, right? You're going to be
Yeah.
making those final decisions. But to set that aside and be like, maybe I don't know everything.
Mhm.
Maybe the way I think of it isn't the best way to do it. And I love when people challenge me on that.
Oh
And
yeah.
sometimes we do go with someone else's idea and sometimes we don't, but I think it's really, really fun to continue to evolve and grow even when you reach those pinnacles in your career, and understanding that, even though you are at the top doesn't mean that you know everything. And I think when you can have that mentality, it helps you to be an even better leader.
Yep, absolutely. And to add to that, I would say everything that we encounter is a learning experience. There's
Mhm.
always something new that we're going to be picking up, that from me included. Um, I very much like to, when somebody comes to me with a problem, I like to turn it back and say, well, what do you think we need to do about this? Or what do you need to do to solve this issue? And it's encouraging to me to see some of the solutions that people come up with,
Mm.
when you actually make them think about it, and you don't have to be there to tell them what to do. They come up with some pretty amazing solutions.
Yeah, I'm a huge fan of solution-based conversations. I'm not a fan of problem-based conversations, right? Like, we know
Mhm.
when there's a problem, but to your point, okay, what's the fix? What's the solve? How can we move
Right.
forward? And I love that you encourage people to think of that on their own. I do that too with my team. If someone comes with me with a question, I'm like, how do you
Mhm.
think? Like, what do you
Yep.
think we should do? Because I can say what I think all day long, but what do you think? And I think that when they can start thinking in that solution, based type of thought process, then we start making forward progress together as a team.
Right. Yep. And sometimes you got to pull it out of people a little bit, but
I know.
they always seem to get there. So
Yeah. Well, sometimes I think
that's the
people
good
are.
part.
I think people are afraid of making mistakes or afraid of
Oh,
maybe
sure.
sounding silly, but if you have the other side that we talked about, the other side of the coin, that's really encouraging, and I'm a huge fan of compliment sandwiches always. How
Oh,
can
yeah.
we, like, not knock people down? How can we lift people up and continue to encourage them to have the confidence to come forward? Because our response is everything, right? It is
Right.
scary to go and say, hey, this is my idea. Here's how I feel like we should solve it. And there's a little intimidation in that, I think, especially like when you're talking to someone who's, maybe at the top of an organization or a company. And our response is so important. We want to make sure that we continue to encourage them. And so for me, if it's an idea that maybe I wouldn't go with, I always revert to like compliment sandwich of like,
Right.
hey, I think this was really great. Thank you for doing this. Here's where I think that, like, maybe we can like brainstorm a little bit. And then again, thank you. You're great. Like, keep coming to
Right.
me with ideas so that they don't feel like, man, I just got shot down.
Oh, yeah. Yep.
Yeah.
I really like it. I don't like mistakes. Nobody wants to make mistakes, but I think that's an important tool in what we do in policing. As long as you can learn something from it and nobody gets hurt, that's a
Mhm.
bonus.
Yep.
But we are always learning from the things that we're doing wrong. And that's, we start that conversation in field training, through the police academy and in a field training, and it's continually coming up as a topic,
Mhm.
because mistakes are going to be made, but we just need to recognize the lessons that we can learn from them.
100%. I couldn't agree more. You had told me that you have an emphasis on training your people to become leaders, and you have an emphasis on succession planning. So, can you talk a little bit about your strategy with, how do you train people for the future and how do you set them up for success so that they are in a position to promote if they want to, and they are in a position to be the future leaders of the organization?
Mhm. Well, we have a lot. My police department has never been as young as it is right now.
Mhm.
My senior patrol officer has 19-ish years on the street. When I started here, 1,000 years ago, 20 years was probably the average, tenure of a police officer. Now we're down to about 4.5.
Yeah.
So my department is very, very young, but we recognize the potential that a lot of our officers have. As a smaller agency, we don't have continual opportunity for promotion, but we're always looking for other opportunities for our staff as far as instructor positions or going out and teaching at the police academy, doing things outside of Clive where they can be recognized in those positions and recognized as leaders and subject matter experts. So we're always doing that. My agency, so just using myself as an example, when I retire, the captain that I have right now, that's our operations commander, he will be retiring about the same time, which is going to open up a couple opportunities for promotion, and we'll have a bunch of people move up at once. But then we're going to be stagnant again. So that's always the issue that we've had at Clive is just, we promote a bunch at one time, but then we get stagnant for 8 or 10 years where nobody's being promoted. So we have to find alternatives to that. And that's where those instructor positions and recognizing potential and putting people into specialty assignments, all of those things kind of come into play. Like I said, we're pretty young right now, but I've got some staff that in another 4 or 5 years, they're going to come out, they're going to kill it as first line supervisors. We offer the opportunity through field training and through an officer in charge process, kind of like an understudy for a sergeant. So we do have those opportunities as well. But then how do we really continue to develop that and keep people involved? And I think we do a very good job through training and providing those opportunities. And that's recognized as, somebody's been putting in the work, they've been putting in the effort, they're doing a very good job. And I don't want to call it a reward, but that's really what it is that, some of these trainings that we send people to can be long-term and they can be fairly expensive, but we're putting that investment into our people. And I think our staff sees that. And that's what keeps my staff around. When we talk about recruitment and retention, I don't have a real problem with retention. I think we have the same problems that everybody else does with recruitment and with the numbers being down. And in my case, there's another 17 agencies in the Des Moines metro area, and we're all competing for the same bodies. So we try to address it as best we can. But once we get staff on board, we really try to reward that behavior and the productivity that they have by acknowledging that through the opportunity for training.
Yeah. Well, I think, we talk a lot about ROI. And I think a lot of times when you talk about ROI, everyone immediately thinks of money. But it doesn't always have to be money. It could be, okay, the investment that you're making into your people,
Right.
is that coming back? And are you showing that it's having a positive impact? And for you to say, we don't have a problem with retention, that's a huge ROI metric. For you to say, hey, we invest in our people, we're really good at training, we make sure that they have opportunities. And because of that, they stay with us longer. That's a win, and that's a return on investment. Do you think that professional development also plays a role into the overall wellness of an individual? And I know you said retention, but are you seeing that it's helping with morale, productivity, things of that nature?
Yeah, one of the things that I think we're very good at is recognizing what people are interested in doing, so we can kind of steer them that direction. The drug recognition expert program is a good example. It's pretty in-depth training. It's takes quite a while to obtain certification, and it's not something. Maybe sounds fun to some people, but they really don't understand what it is. So it's a long process to become certified and recognized as an expert in that field. But we recognize potential that we have in officers, and we steer the right ones in that direction. And we've turned out some really good drug recognition experts through that process. So does it help with morale? Absolutely. I mean, it's an opportunity to maybe get away from the day-to-day of patrol. But when they're interested in that field, whether it's DRE or firearms or, an instructor in some other field, when you're interested in that, certainly that's going to have an effect on your morale and it's going to make it better.
Yeah.
And we have our morale problems around here too from time to time, and we recognize when that's happening and we do the things that we can do to make it better. But we get such a huge benefit out of training. It's the one thing that I really have a lot of control over as to what we're going to take part in and who's going to be able to go. And it's recognized in our staff that if they do a good job, they're going to be rewarded in that way.
I love that you said as an organization, we can take a look at what we can control and what we can't control. And for you to say, hey, training opportunities, some of these things that we're doing organizationally right now, those are the things that we can control. And so we're going to really put our focus there. You mentioned earlier about hiring being a challenge, and every agency is, for the most part, is dealing with that, right? And you're right. Everyone is competing against the same pool, and that pool is smaller than it used to be. Um, you had told me before that you really focus on hiring the right people.
Right.
And I want to talk a little bit about this. So, I had someone tell me one time, and obviously we're in different professions, but I had someone tell me hiring is guessing, firing is knowing. And I'm like, yeah, I mean, that makes
Yeah.
sense. But of course, in law enforcement, like you want to fire as little people as possible, right? If you're
Right.
firing someone, that means there was a big issue, right?
Yep.
And so, how do you, even when recruitment and hiring is really challenging, how do you hire the right people without just putting people in the position just because you need bodies? How are you able to be selective and maybe hold out and wait for those right people to come?
Right. So you're right. A lot of hiring is unknown. You just don't really know what you're getting into, and people can say what they want and act how they want in an interview, but does that really come through at the end of the day once you brought them on board? So that's always going to be a question. I think we have gotten pretty good at recognizing, like I said earlier, potential in people, and a lot of times it just comes down to the feeling that you have about somebody and if they're going to be a good fit. Um, yes, the numbers are down, but the quality of applicant that we are getting here in central Iowa, anyway, is generally pretty good. So we have fewer to select from, but they're a better applicant pool than I guess maybe some other parts of the country experience. Again, it just comes down to a lot of it is just the feeling that you have about somebody. We look at their experience, we look at their life experience, we look at what they bring to them as far as potentially having a law enforcement background or a language skill or something like that. There are certain things that we are always looking for, and language skills are one of those.
Mhm.
So somebody like that might get an extra look. Um, but by and large, the pool that we have is of a higher quality, even though the numbers are down. I haven't hired anybody that I've thought that guy probably shouldn't be here or she shouldn't be here. That hasn't ever been an issue. We have a history of actually hiring people that might not have worked out at other agencies,
Mhm.
and they fit in very well here. And I think that speaks to the culture of the police department. And I think it speaks to our field training officers and the fact that we will give extra time to people to help them work through whatever issues they have. There are some agencies that are very proud of the fact that they wash people out in field training. And I don't think that's a number that you should be shooting for a high number or really even something to be proud of. Um, I appreciate the fact that we have the time and the opportunity to work with people and work through issues.
Yeah.
So, yeah, recruitment is always going to be a problem, especially now. But I think we do a good job of managing through that. I've had people leave here in the past prior to myself becoming chief who have then turned around and reapplied with us because they want to come back. And I think that speaks to the culture of the department as well. So
Yeah. Grass isn't always greener. Sometimes it is, but sometimes it's
it's,
not. Yeah.
yeah, the saying I heard the other day, the grass is greener where you water it.
Mm.
So
Yeah, I've heard that before
that's,
too.
that's true.
It is
We,
true. I think that I mean, to your point of culture, yes, leadership is going to help set the culture, but I think everyone within the organization has a role in what that culture looks like, and to your point of like, are we watering our own grass? How are
yep,
we contributing to the morale? How are we contributing to positivity or negativity within the organization or within our circles? And I think that's really important because, and I'm guilty of this, everything I talk about on this podcast I've done, because I think
oh yeah,
we're all human, and
yep,
I have done it before where I have pointed my finger out at everyone else and I'm like, the reason why I'm unhappy is because of this, 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 and this, all external
right,
to me,
right,
and How can we self-assess a little bit more and say, yeah, like maybe there are some things that are frustrating, but to go back to what you said about like what you can and can't control, we can control how we respond, we can control how we show up, we can control our attitude. And maybe there is an organization that maybe isn't a good fit for you. Maybe it
Yep.
is, something to look at, but I would first look at ourselves, like
Oh
what are
yeah.
we doing? Are we contributing to the positivity of the organization? Are we, contributing to a healthy, positive culture, or are we contributing to the negativity? And can we make the choice if we are contributing to negativity to try to be more positive, because it's a practice, you're
Yep.
not like overnight just going to be all of a sudden super positive. You have to work at it. It's something you have to try to do every day, and you almost have to retrain yourself if you are a part of that negativity. And so I think it's important for us to understand our role.
Yep. Oh, absolutely. And I'm no stranger to mistakes myself, and I'm the first one to admit. I tell these guys all the time. It's you know, when they people are always afraid to tell me that they've damaged a car. I'm like, I've crashed more cars than you guys could even possibly imagine. You're not going to get in trouble for it. Just tell me what's going on, and
Yeah.
um, yeah.
How is leadership? How do you guys train positivity within the organization? Are there certain things that you look for that are maybe contributing to negative peer pressure or negativity? And are there ways that you guys are focusing on trying to create more of that positivity within the organization?
Community relations. We're doing a lot of those types of events. It's Police Week right now. We have a police department open house event that we're hosting tomorrow. As a matter of fact, we just got done with our first Citizens Police Academy, so we're getting a lot of people involved in the department in things that we haven't historically taken advantage of, um, and that's just interacting with the community. So they're being able to get out there, and they're being able to put our department out in front and talk about the good things that we're doing. And when they get to talk about the good things that we're doing, it helps them with their attitude towards the job, and it helps with the morale of the department, and it gets us more involved with the community. So there's a lot of those types of things that we're doing
Yeah.
internally to the department. Training. I find that my staff likes it when I come out and talk to them at training. You just get to kind of give general updates of what we're doing, and things that we're going to see and start doing in the future. So I've started doing a lot of that. I'll come out in uniform from time to time and work a shift with people, so I try to stay engaged with them. But all of those things, it doesn't take much time. It doesn't cost me anything. It's just time. But being able to engage with my staff like that, I think, has really been a big benefit towards just keeping morale up and keeping positive attitudes here within the department.
Yeah. And you told me that you guys also focus on recognition and positive reinforcement within the organization as well, correct?
Yes, so we do that quite a bit. We're very active on social media, and when I get compliments on the officers, I like to put those out on social media so that the community can see what our guys are doing, our guys and girls are doing. We instituted a Chiefs Award program so that I can, give a special challenge coin to somebody if they did a big case where, maybe one of the things that we allow our patrol officers to do is once they take an initial report, if they want to continue to work that case and see it through, do the interviews and do the arrest or write the search warrant or whatever they want to do, we have time generally. So my staff has the ability to do that, and they very much enjoy doing that. But then we recognize them on the back end of that case when it's done, uh, just because it's the right thing to do. And it helps with them, helps with their well-being around here at the department, and it gets good recognition for them. And it benefits the department to do that, to put that type of stuff out on social media. So
Yeah.
not something that we did a whole lot of prior to myself being appointed as chief, but we are doing a lot more of it now.
I love that you said that a lot of these things that you're talking about right now, because I do agree that that is related to wellness. And obviously, you've had really good success in retention and morale within the organization. And I love that you said this doesn't really take me a lot of time, but it
Hmm.
has a huge return. And it also doesn't really cost me any money at all. and
Right.
it has a huge return. And I think it's a two-way street, and you can tell me if you agree or disagree. But to me, everything that you just said, having positive interactions within the community for them to understand and maybe even be reminded of their why, why they show up is for the
Mhm.
community. And sometimes it is hard when, maybe you're going call after call after call, and, maybe you're having negative interaction after negative interaction to have a counter to that, doing events within the community where people are smiling at you and or can you create opportunities for yourself within the day where you go and connect with someone and have a conversation and they say thank you? How
Yep.
can you, maybe create that for yourself on a day to day, but then as an organization, you guys are creating those opportunities as well. But then also, how can you create more positivity and recognition and positive reinforcement? And I assume that by doing those things, it'll also circle back into the community. You have
Yes.
happier, healthier officers. They feel empowered, they feel like they're doing good work, and then they're going to want to go out in the community and they're going to want to continue to do more work and be recognized for that hard work. And so it's this circular cycle that happens when you pour into your people, they pour into the community, and then the community pours back into them, and then it goes round and round.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I would definitely agree with that. I don't know that I would say maybe it was easier for us to do that. I think with having a staff as young as they are, you know, things are different generation to generation, but these younger officers that we're hiring, especially the ones that we hire, they're in this for the right reason. They want to come in and they're not necessarily the warrior mindset that we used to have. It's now they're more the guardian and they want to take care of the community and they want to be involved in something bigger. So I think the transition for them to go out and be with the community and interact with them, I think that's really been beneficial. And I think that's been a big help with that is just, yeah, we've got a young staff right now and they could run circles around me, but they know when it's time to slow down and interact with the community. And they, like I say, they're doing it for the right reasons.
Love that. For that younger generation, what words of wisdom would you share with them that maybe you wish you would have known when you were younger, or something that's helped you along the way that you want to pass on to them?
Yeah, I would. So I've been watching some of your videos on YouTube, and I don't want to rehash a lot of what's already been said, but it's all important stuff. Financial wellness and taking care of your mental health and all of those things are all important. I would One of the things I would say is to make sure you're using everything that you encounter as a learning situation. One of the things that I did as a field training officer, and I still do it to this day, when I'm talking to newer officers and even cops that have been around for a while, is listen to the radio, listen to what you're hearing, and then ask yourself how you would respond to something like that.
Mm.
Because we go to things all the time that we've never experienced, but it doesn't mean that we can't be prepared for them. And I read a book recently called Left to Bang, which really got me onto this thought process about just recognizing signs and the anomalies that are out there that can help you recognize when the potential threat is there. And I think the better we prepare for that, uh, the more we will be ready when we do encounter these situations. So role playing everything that you hear so that you can be better prepared for those situations when they come up, because at some point they're going to, and maybe they never do, but at least you can say that you've at least thought about it and have a plan in place. The other thing I would say is take a lot of pictures while you're going through this career. That's one thing that's going to be lost. And I know, fortunately, now everybody's got a cell phone, so there's not really a reason to not do that. But document your career as you go through it, so that you can look back on the good things that happened. That's going to help with your mental health, and it's just going to be there as a remembrance of those things that you've encountered. I would say laugh a lot, even on the bad days. Try to find something to laugh about. I'm like a 12-year-old kid at heart. We walk around here and do movie quotes all day long and laugh and giggle and just try to have as much fun as we can. But you got to do it even on the bad days too. That's going to help get you through a lot. And then the last thing I would say is get a dog. There's nothing better than coming home, even on one of those days that just sucked and everything went wrong. You get to go home and your puppy's there waiting for you. It's one of the best feelings there is. So there's a lot we can do. I think individually, mental health wise, some of what I talked about was just there for your mental health. I think that's one of the things we do a very good job with here is looking out for each other. We have a team here in place that's all they do is crisis intervention. And when something bad happens, they're there to step in and be that voice that you can talk to or listen to. A lot of things that we can do just on a day-to-day basis. And I think we do a lot of them very well.
Thank you. I really appreciate the tactical words of wisdom of saying, "Hey, laugh, take
Yeah.
pictures, get yourself a dog." I really appreciate you outlining those things that can help, and I really appreciate your time coming on here today. Thank you so much.
No, it was fun. Had a good time. Thank you for inviting me.
Of course.